Welcome, Jace.
Thank you, everyone. How are we?
I just want to thank you personally and on behalf of everyone to be able to enjoy your art. Because I got a sneak preview, a couple of months or a month ago. I had the privilege, and I saw, wow, this is excellent. And Steph also had an idea to make an art showing, an art gallery in Salford, and I think that's a great idea. Is it correct that this is the first time you've shown your artwork in public like this?
Yeah, my art's always been very private to me. Each one's kind of has a very special point in my life, and they've never really been for anyone else but for myself. So it's very unusual that I would do something like this. Normally I would be out the door running away by now. So.
Well, I'm glad you're here, and congratulations. I think that's a good achievement, a great achievement on itself, being brave to put the artworks out there. How are you feeling now, Jace?
Yeah, no, good. It's a journey I want to take. I want my art to be able to, move beyond what it's meant to me and allow a lot of other people to see it so they can engage with it and get their own messages and, their own experiences that they can relate to with it. So hopefully I can do a lot more.
Okay.
The place here has really helped me kind of get some stability. So my journey now will be to try and produce as much as I can and enter some comps and hope pick up some commission work and stuff like that. So.
All right, good on you. So that's a plug there if you want to have a commission work. Before we go into the artwork, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? Your story, where you come from.
My story. So I grew up on the streets from a very young age. I spent most of my life incarcerated, either in boys' homes or jail. Not much to tell. It's streets, drugs. I mean, probably a lot of people have gone through the exact same things that I've gone through. Our stories are probably very similar. But I guess it kind of everything started to change for me when my children were born. So I had a daughter and a son pretty much straight away, and I didn't want them to grow up in the kind of life that I grew up in. I didn't want them to experience anything that I had to experience in life. So I really needed to find a direction and find change. And I guess art became that for me. It became my teacher, it became my educators, it became everything. It taught me about the world, it taught me about philosophy, it taught me about science. It's an absolute amazing thing.
So when did you start realizing that, hey, I'm pretty good at this?
Never.
Well, come on.
I never thought I was good enough.
I enjoyed it. How about that? When did you hey, this is really something for me. It's doing something. It's doing good for me.
Okay. Well, that's a hard question. I think at first it was just about learning to do something different, trying to give myself a chance at life, something beyond what I always known. I never really found that I never found myself good enough for what I produced. It did explain a lot of, symbolically anyway, it explained a lot of elements of my life, but they never really articulated fully what I wanted, and I don't think they ever would. They ever can. I think they can only be snapshots of a certain moment, and they can't tell an entire story, just a part of it. So, yeah.
Okay. Well, looking around the room, which ones are probably the most significant art that you've produced?
Well, obviously, the four up here are probably the most important pieces. These, like I said, these were indicative of my children. They both, at the age of 4, picked up instruments. Nikita, my daughter, who's my oldest, picked up the violin, and my son, Lockie, picked up the saxophone. So their journey through that process and the things that they went through, a lot of the strengths that they'd show were actually more of a guidance for me. I mean, I'd learnt more from my children and their journeys than I'd ever had in my own life. So they were really important in, keeping a snapshot of that memory. but as you can see, they on most of my work, you'll always see angel wings on everything, and that's kind of the spiritual search through everything that happens. You can always learn general lessons, and you can learn, material lessons. But when it comes to the spiritual stuff, um, it's a search continuously. Well, it has been for me anyway.
Yeah, because as you can see, there's a lot of spiritual undertone.
There is.
If you don't mind telling us about your spiritual journey.
The only religion I ever knew was Christianity. So it was the only kind of medium from which not medium, but area from which I could take and express myself in. One of the most important pieces would be the one over there with Christ and Longinus.
Yep.
And the story of that is not actually about the crucifixion itself. It's about the man who had to go through the process of stabbing Jesus and the profound effect that it ended up having on him. It changed his life, and he went on to change so many other people's lives. I think he even became a saint over in Europe. But so it was that really reflect what I was trying to do and what I was trying to look for. The symbolism of that is that the spear of Longinus is going into Jesus' heart. The light is coming through his heart onto the tree of life, and the tree of life is infusing Longinus with the Spirit. So, yeah, it was how I always kind of saw mine. Not so much in the religious sense, but in a spiritual sense. So it wasn't religious.
Yeah, well, that makes sense to me. I hope it makes sense to you. Okay. Any other art that you want to point out, like this is what it means, and talk more about?
I can, yeah, okay. So the first one is simply just about our stupidity as humans. I mean, we've cut down a forest. 5 minutes later, we build a TV, and somewhere that someone can sit down and actually watch the forest on TV. So, hypocrisy is pretty rampant. But the second one's my battle with heroin. I battled with heroin for a very long time, and the snake represents the actual the drug itself and the hold that it kind of had on me, and the phoenix is kind of symbolising me the desire to want to change, and it seemed that every time that I kind of found something and burnt myself into a new part, the snake was still there. So it's a battle that's been going on for a long time. Third one. So there was a lot of very negative abuse in my life, and it exemplifies the nature of, I guess, prostitution at the essence of it, being straightforward. And you can see that there's a mechanical aspect, then there's a dark kind of spirit, soul there, but then you see this kind of blue clouds in the background of hope and, dreams of something beyond any of that. And it was just that was a big part of my life, so that's what that piece was about. The one down the back, the vase and the picture, has a duality to it. It has a couple of meanings. The first one is it's just simply a picture on a wall with a vase, but the second one is it's an actual eye crying. So the teardrop coming down from the eye. And it's just I guess a lot of us don't actually see what really happens with what's going on in the world. We see the material and the superficial, and we don't see through that into the things that, the reasons beyond. The next one's about mother and child. It's an old Bible story. It's an old favourite of the Renaissance, and Renaissance was one of my influences when I first started drawing and first got into art. It also kind of symbolised my desire and to have that kind of relationship, to have that kind of connection with my family and my mum, but mine was very different to that. So, but there was always hope that that could be a part of my life one day, and yeah. The last two. The one with the angel and the mermaid is actually my interpretation of Adam and Eve when I was really struggling with the idea. I was looking more towards kind of the scientific elements, such as Darwinism and evolution and
So that's the
whole-
mermaid part. Okay, great.
And the last one is kind of, it's about chaos and balance. It's actually a spiritual drummer. It's a drummer with wings. He's in the center. You can see the chaotic movement and the eroticism as it slowly starts to go out. There's a little bit more balance and a little bit more structure. So, yeah, it was. And it was also an experiment in changing my style, moving on from a lot more tonal and a lot more spatial conflict within the picture. Generally, most of the artworks that aren't here today are a lot more to be engaged with for the individual, because generally most people will read 2 or 3 different things into it, and it's all true. Whether one person sees something and another person sees something else, it's very true and it's very relative to that person. And I like them to engage with the work generally, so hopefully over time I'll be able to produce some more works that will really show that.
That's great. Last question, you kind of allude to it. What do you hope your art can achieve? Like, not only to you, but to people who enjoy it?
I've got a desire to actually take my art, beyond the visual. I want to get into installations and stuff like that, and I really want to tackle the world of abuse towards women, abuse towards children, and really use my abilities of creativity and expression to kind of open up, at least topics on the thing, and try to get people to look at things that they wouldn't look at normally. That's my ultimate goal. Hopefully I can find people and organisations who will back me in some of the ideas that I've got, because they're pretty big, and I think they'll take a while to happen, but I want to give a lot more back to the community. I used to take a lot when I was younger. Living on the streets, you don't really have much, and most of what you have, you've taken from someone else. So I guess for a lot of years, I talk and finally like to give back something to society. So.
That's great. That's great. Well, give it to Jason. Wow, Jace, I just want to say thank you for sharing your love of art and your art. It's incredibly brave to be able to do this, and we are privileged, right? This is the first time he's able to bring it out, and we are the ones who enjoyed it, right? So it is a privilege. So I just want to thank you, Jace. It's so good to see, it inspires all of us. I think it can speak to in different levels, right? And I think, so thank you, Jason.
Thank you.
All right. Well, all this, when we're surrounded, when I'm surrounded by, next man, when I'm surrounded by beautiful arts, I can't help but think about beauty. Now, you might have heard about the problem of evil, right? Like, okay, the world is full of evil and suffering. How can there be God? Well, I also have a problem of beauty. If there's beauty in the world, how can you explain there is no God? Because just like Jason here, I can't just see this painting like, this just randomly happened. You just put paints together and shake them out, and then it appears a beautiful painting. Every time we eat a meal, every time we hear good music, every time we hear good art, every time we meet a good friend, every time we hug people, there's beauty in the world. And we got to ask ourselves, where does beauty come from? Now, there is a problem of pain. I know that. There's a problem of evil. But there's also a problem of beauty. If we don't acknowledge there's God, then we have a problem of beauty. And I think when we look at the artwork, and I love, everyone has their own interpretation. But the right interpretation is when you talk to Jason. That's why I want him up here. I want him to explain what this is. So in our lives, there are, things that we can see and we interpret them. The events, the bad things that are happening, we interpret them, right? But the correct interpretation needs to come from the Creator of that beauty, right? I understand there's a lot of people in our room, in here, in our lives that has pain and suffering, but the problem of pain, the problem of evil, is actually can be seen on the cross of Jesus. If you look at the picture there, that's Jesus in our pain. He took our pain. So on the cross, the problem of evil is solved. And on the cross, the problem of beauty is also solved. Because Jesus took our pain, took our suffering, so we can have forgiveness. We can have future. We can have life. So friends, I don't know where you are in your journey. Like Jason, he is on a journey. I am on a journey. But if you're on that journey, there's a card on your table. It's our worry well. If you're not familiar with that, if you feel like, you know what, I need a prayer. In whatever situation you're in whatever season you're in, if you say, I need prayer, you don't need to know God to pray, but you need to understand that there is a God. And the correct interpretation of your life can only come from the Creator. So can I encourage you, if you feel like, you know what, I feel blank. I don't know what you're feeling, but God knows. And God has come down and took our pain on the cross. So when we trust in Him, in Jesus, that we can understand He's not just a God who is far away, but He's a God who is in our pain. So can I encourage you to fill in the cards if you need prayers, and we'll pray for you. And also there's a card for the context. We'll send you a reminder next time there's soul food, but normally it's second Sunday of each month, except last month, so apologies for that, who came because it was Mother's Day. So we'll put on our mailing list and SMS list so you can get a reminder. But apart from that, I think we are good. And dessert. Kevin has dessert. So enjoy the night, everyone, and God bless you. Yeah, thank you.